this week, several Democratic lawmakers introducing a bill that would reimpose that nationwide eviction moratorium. And this is why. Millions of Americans right now facing the prospect of losing their homes as COVID continues to surge across the U.S. Altagracia Pierre-Outerbridge is a landlord-tenant attorney. She joins us now from New York City. And Mr. Altagracia, thank you very much for being with us. Senator Elizabeth Warren and Representative Cori Bush introduced the Keeping Renters Safe Act of 2021, and they did so because 3.7 million people in the U.S. could lose their homes as they face evictions over the next 2 months. How dire is that situation really? I mean, we hear the numbers, but break it down to us for us in terms of the person who actually has to live with this crisis.
Absolutely. We know that, and thank you for having me, 11 million people are behind in rent. So that is a lot of people. We know that it's about 16% of renters are behind in rent. We know that the rental assistance, only 11% of it has been distributed. So it is pretty dire. So about a quarter of people are actually behind in rent. That's a lot. That's a lot. There's no other way to put it. That means they are subject to eviction if there's no moratorium in their state, pending the passing of a federal eviction moratorium.
You know, we blame Washington for a lot of things, and this is the one that has always baffled me since day one. Congress setting aside $46.5 billion in emergency rental assistance in response to the pandemic. But we did the numbers. Only $5.1 billion in aid has gone out by late last month. Why has it been so difficult to get that money in the hands of the people who need it?
I mean, it's a multi-layered problem. Number one, we have an issue of COVID, which means that people are not able to go out and apply the way they used to. At least in New York, you used to be able to walk into an HRA or some type of assistance office and apply, right? Apply at a center near your home, right? This COVID has made it that this is online, right? And the people that it's supposed to help the most, at least in New York, which is the folks who make less than 80% of the AMI, right? The area medium income, are supposed to somehow have computers, have computer access, right? And be able to scan in documents. So the technology that's required to apply in the times of COVID is not there for the most vulnerable people. We also know that a lot of people don't know about it. So at least in New York, the governor committed to a marketing effort to get folks to know, and that's the grassroots way. Guess what? People are learning things online because we're not really quite going out, right? So if you don't have the internet, as people know, everyone believes that everyone has the internet, right? That they have stable internet, that they have computers. That's not the case, especially for people who are lower income, who are supposed to be helped by this.
Ms. Altagracia, is this going to be an endless cycle? Because if these people get put out, the first thing that a new landlord says is, let me see your renting experience. And they see on that application that you didn't pay rent for 18 months. The last thing any new landlord wants to do is bring in somebody that they may not get rent from for 18 months. So would it be better to solve this problem now than later after these people are actually kicked out into the streets?
Absolutely. I mean, the 47 billion is supposed to actually pay the landlord and prevent eviction proceedings from starting. We know that once the landlord, at least in New York, as a New York City landlord-tenant attorney, I know that once you apply for the rental assistance in New York, there's no eviction for 1 year. So the landlord agrees upon receiving that money that they cannot evict for 1 year. Respond directly to your question, there is a ban on blacklisting of tenants. Which at least is in effect in New York and New Jersey, where the landlord is technically not supposed to view your past records as a way to vet you as a tenant. Will they do it? Are they still doing it? Yes, but it's no longer legal.
Housing was already very expensive in places like New York, the Bay Area, and right here where I am in D.C., and that's just to name a few. How has COVID made the problem of finding affordable housing in urban areas that much more difficult?
Wow, very much more difficult. We know that it's a seller's market. We know that housing price has gone up. We know that at least in New York, I mean, housing was already not not affordable, right? So with COVID, it's even less affordable as people have lost their jobs. At least in New York, 42% of people are rent burdened. That means 30% of their pre-tax income goes to rent. And 23% are severely rent burdened. That means 50% or more of their pre-tax income goes to rent. So there was already a housing crisis from the beginning. It's just getting worse. Folks cannot pay the rent.
Do these landlords want to work with lower income tenants, or would they be more comfortable tossing them out into the street?
Well, I think it's a foregone conclusion at this point. If somebody owes you 30, 40K, it's very hard for a landlord to say, don't, I don't want it. Right. So what landlords are saying is, if I can get that 30, 40K, right, and I'm, at that point they can no longer, right, evict for a year, they would rather have that cash for now. Or what they decide later is a different story. But we know that there are housing programs, housing voucher programs that landlords cannot really reject without being the basis of a discrimination complaint, a good one, right? That a source of income discrimination, right? So landlords can't really reject where they get money, but some landlords feel comfort in getting money from housing vouchers and from the government, because those Section 8 vouchers and other housing vouchers actually are paid, and it's pretty much a guaranteed payment from the government. So I think it's two sides. Some landlords do prefer lower income tenants who have vouchers and who have,
Right.
their income, 70% of their rent paid by the government.
Altagracia, Pierre-Outerbridge. She is a landlord-tenant attorney in New York. Miss Pierre-Outerbridge, thank you very much for being with us.